The night sky on the Thai-Cambodia border suddenly glowed red
as grenades exploded
among the fortified buildings in Phoi Phet. Rifle and machine gun fire tore through the silence. Tracer rounds drew long streaks on the wet ground. Thai Special Forces teams, faces painted black, silently crossed the river in rubber boats, approaching the 3-meter-high barbed wire fence of the notorious human-trafficking compound. In just a few seconds, dozens of stun grenades were thrown over the wall. A blinding white flash, accompanied by a deafening explosion, caused mercenaries inside to panic and rush out from the bunkers. Intelligence reports 3 months ago identified this as the detention center for over 800 victims from across Southeast Asia, protected by over 300 hired gunmen from multiple nations. The order to attack was approved by the Thai command. As soon as there was evidence, the criminals were preparing to move a large consignment across the border. H-hour had arrived. From the east side of the river, flare rounds were fired, turning night into day. Armed helicopter crews hovered 30 meters above the ground. Unguided rockets rained down, turning the main gate into a pile of red-hot scrap metal. Mercenaries tried to fight back. With heavy machine guns on the rooftops, tracer rounds drew long lines across the sky, but Thai snipers from the opposite bank had locked down every source of fire. The sound of clashing metal, shattering glass, and screaming merged with the roar of engines. In just the first 10 minutes, 3 main buildings were fiercely ablaze. Thick columns of black smoke curled up like pillars of hell in the border area that was previously completely silent. Assault teams jumped over the collapsed wall, moving in groups of 5, smoke grenades obscuring visibility, silenced guns firing continuously at any armed silhouette. Inside the long, dark corridor, the smell of gunpowder mixed with the smell of fresh blood. A group of mercenaries entrenched themselves in the basement, using prisoners as human shields, but the loudspeaker calling for surrender in 3 languages was drowned out by a loud explosion when the engineering team breached the main door with a shaped charge. White smoke permeated the area. The sound of gunfire gradually subsided, then fell silent. Only the groans and cries of those just pulled out of the iron cages remained. Along the river line, patrol boats, headlights swept the water surface, ready to eliminate any boat attempting to flee. The fire was still burning, the smoke was still billowing, and the raid had just begun. The sky west of Phoi Phet was slashed by a long streak of light as 4 TIE fighter jets plunged down. From an altitude of 8,000 meters, jet engine roared, drowning out the noise of the explosions on the ground. In just an instant, laser-guided bombs left the belly compartments, drawing a perfect curve, before plunging straight into the 3 most fortified high-rise buildings of the compound. The ground shook like an earthquake. A column of fire over 100 meters high shot straight up into the night sky, swallowing the entire mass of concrete and steel. The chain of explosions echoed all the way to Battambang, shattering windows tens of kilometers away. From the underground operations room in Trat Province, commanding officers monitored via infrared screens. The main targets, the underground arsenal and the command center, were wiped out in just the first airstrike. Thick black smoke obscured the moonlight, turning the entire border area into a colossal furnace. The air crews reported coldly, Target 1 completely vanished, Target 2 is fiercely burning, Target 3 is half collapsed. At the same time, south of Phoi Phet, Cambodian air defense radar began detecting strange signals. The radar crews at Reem military base over 300 kilometers away were startled as a series of high-speed signals appeared on the screen. A red alert order was issued, but it was too late. The second wave of Thai aircraft swooped in, this time targeting the command towers and the fuel depot inside the compound. Cluster bombs exploded in midair, turning the wide area of several hectares into a flickering sea of fire. The sound of twisting metal, shattering concrete, merged with the frantic screams of those who remained below. On the ground, the Special Forces teams utilized the smoke and fire as cover, continuing to advance deeper. Each step was a small explosion from a stun grenade. Surviving mercenaries scattered and ran in panic. Some rushed out of the side gate, hoping to flee towards Cambodia, but the searchlights from the armed helicopters had locked onto every figure. The loudspeaker voice from the air rang out in Khmer and English, "Drop your weapons or die." Some stubborn individuals still fired, immediately shredded by rockets from the helicopter in the pitch-black street. The night wind began to blow strongly, pushing the black smoke eastward, obscuring the vision of the Cambodian forces rushing to deploy troops from Sisyphon. Columns of armored vehicles revved their engines on the national highway, headlights flickering through the thick screen of smoke. But in the sky, the Thai aircraft remained completely dominant. A Cambodian armed helicopter attempted to take off from the airport near Battambang, was shot down by an air-to-air missile immediately upon leaving the ground, turning into a fireball falling straight onto the rice field. The whole of Phoi Phe was now only left with the light of fire and the sound of explosions. The compound, once an impregnable fortress of the human-trafficking network, was now being leveled meter by meter from above. The ground of Phoi Phe shook, as if about to split in two when the self-propelled artillery from the Cambodian side began to fire from National Highway 5, only 17 kilometers from the border. The large caliber shells tore through the wind, flying over the heads of the Thai Special Forces teams, then exploded amidst the peripheral residential area, turning houses into piles of rubble and flinging vehicles into the air. Thick red dust mixed with black smoke from the compound, forming a dense wall obscuring even the light of the fire. The Cambodian artillery crews hidden behind the rubber forest continuously loaded ammunition, the firing rhythm steady like a war drum. Each salvo of 10 shells turned a corner of Phoi Phe into a deep bomb crater. Canal water splashed everywhere. Trees were uprooted. The terrifying screech of the artillery shells silenced all other sounds for a few seconds. Then a deafening explosion rang out again, followed by the sound of dirt and rocks clattering down onto the tin roof. On the ground, the Thai Special Forces teams immediately switched to the snake crawl tactic. They lay close to the ground, using wrecked cars and collapsed walls as shields, moving meter by meter deeper into the burning compound. Whenever the Cambodian artillery fired, they held their breath in the new bomb craters, waiting for the screeching to pass before continuing to rush forward. Tracer rounds from the heavy machine guns of the mercenary remnants still whistled ahead, but the loud artillery fire drowned out everything, turning the battle into a symphony of death. Meanwhile, in a narrow alley leading to the main detention area, a group of 12 final mercenary gunmen entrenched themselves behind an old armored vehicle. They used prisoners as human shields, pushing the chained individuals out in front of the gun barrels. Thai snipers from the third floor of a ruined building observed through infrared scopes. In just 3 seconds, 6 suppressed shots simultaneously left the barrels. 6 heads exploded like watermelons, blood splattered red onto the white wall. The prisoners screamed and cried, collapsing to their knees amidst the corpses. Rain began to pour down, heavy and chillingly cold. Rainwater mixed with blood flowed into dark red streams on the broken concrete road surface. Smoke from the fires was subdued by the rain, but instead formed a dense fog screen, making headlights only able to illuminate a few meters. The sound of the Cambodian artillery was still steady, but the pace slowed down as the artillery crews realized ammunition was running low. On the mobile command post of Thailand, the commanding officer's voice rang out coldly over the radio. "Enemy artillery is slowing down. Continue the assault." Amidst the rain and smoke, the assault teams finally reached the main basement area, where over 300 remaining victims were locked up in repurposed containers. The thick steel door was torn apart by a shaped charge. Flashlight beams flickered amidst the stifling darkness. Cries and weak calls for rescue rang out faintly. The battle on the ground had not yet ended, but the door leading to hell had been torn open. The surface of the Mekong River at 3 a.m. was pitch black like ink, with only the reflection of fire from distant Phoi Phe remaining. 4 Thai high-speed patrol boats, with suppressed engines, silently cut through the waves from the direction of Sisaket, headlights completely off, with only the faint blue light from the radar screen remaining. They formed a pincer movement blocking the river, which was over 500 meters wide, right at the bend where supply lines from Sihanoukville often secretly crossed the border. Exactly at 4:15 a.m., radar on the lead boat picked up 11 high-speed signals, rushing against the current. They were the criminals' convoy of iron-hulled boats loaded with weapons, fuel, and dozens of armed reinforcements. Without a single warning, the 30mm automatic cannons on the bows of the Thai boats simultaneously opened fire. Tracer rounds drew bright red straight lines across the night, tearing the first boat into two pieces. Bodies and burning fuel barrels splashed into the water, forming fireballs floating on the river surface. The remaining boats immediately turned back, their engines roaring desperately. But the Thai boats accelerated to maximum speed, their bows cutting through the waves, creating white foam, pursuing closely like wolves hunting deer. The sound of heavy machine guns from the criminal boats returned weak fire. The bullets only rippled the water surface, but could not reach the armored deck of the Thai boats. A rocket from an armed helicopter circling overhead plunged down, turning the third boat into a column of fire over 10 meters high. The smell of burning gasoline and roasted flesh spread on the river wind. At the same time, on the ground, the Thai command received the first report from the Special Forces teams in the compound. Over 150 victims had been pulled out of the basement. Most were exhausted, chained, and beaten. Footage from the helmet-mounted camera was transmitted live. Smeared faces, deeply sunken eyes, sobbing mixed with the sound of rain. A Vietnamese girl about 20 years old tightly hugged the neck of the soldier who saved her, mumbling, "Thank you," in clumsy Thai. On the river, the battle that lasted less than 12 minutes had ended. Of the 11 boats, 9 had sunk, the remaining 2 raised a white flag. Over 40 surviving gunmen were tied up, kneeling on the deck, faces bowed low against the deck, soaked with blood and river water. The Thai crew coldly inspected the cargo hold, dozens of boxes of rifles, grenades, and also nylon bags containing white substance. The final evidence to wipe out the entire network. The heavy rain was still falling, gradually extinguishing the fires on the river surface. The boat wrecks drifted slowly down the river southward. Like will-o'-the-wisps in the dark night, the last supply line had been completely severed. The rain turned into a storm, with gale force 8 winds whipping across Poipet like an iron whip. The gray sky flickered continuously, as over 30 multiple rocket launchers from the Cambodian side simultaneously fired. Long orange streaks of fire drew parabolic paths for kilometers, crossing the border and plunging down as if the sky was falling. Each salvo of 12 shells turned a 500 square meter area into a sea of fire and debris. Dirt and rocks flew higher than rooftops. A Thai armored vehicle was flipped over, its wheels spinning rapidly in midair. The Cambodian artillery crews, hidden deep within the rubber forest, 20 kilometers from the border, worked like machines. They loaded ammunition under a rain cover, faces smeared with mud and smoke, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. The sound of clashing metal, the roaring diesel engine, and the shouting commands drowned out the sound of the rain. In just 15 minutes, over 200 rockets had left the launchers, turning the entire west side of Poipet into a red hell. On the ground, the Thai Special Forces teams immediately withdrew into the old trench system from the time of the Cambodian War. Rocket rounds exploded above, shrapnel whistled like a disturbed hornet's nest. One rocket round hit the medical team, pulling victims onto an armored vehicle, turning the vehicle into a fireball that rolled several times before stopping. The vehicle doors burst open, burnt corpses were flung out. Screaming was drowned out by the next explosion. The heavy rain slowed the rate of burning, but also made the ground muddy. Vehicle wheels slid widely, stretchers sank deep up to the knees. On the mobile command post 3 kilometers away, Thai officers observed through periscopes. The radar screen was jammed due to smoke and rain. A lieutenant colonel slammed his hand on the table. The enemy artillery still has at least 3 launchers. Call in the Air Force. Only 10 seconds later, 4 fighter jets from Utapao base were overhead, despite the storm. They plunged to an altitude of less than 500 meters, dropping laser-guided bombs straight onto the newly determined coordinate. The ground on the Cambodian side shook violently. 3 colossal columns of fire rose up from the rubber forest, swallowing the entire launchers and artillery crews. But the counterattack had not yet stopped. A final volley of rockets still managed to leave the launchers before being wiped out, tearing across the border and falling onto the residential area near the compound. Dozens of thatched houses were leveled. Civilians ran in panic amidst the rain of bombs. The sound of children crying mingled with the barking of dogs and the crackling sound of burning wood. The smell of burning flesh spread on the storm wind. The rain grew heavier and heavier, turning the battlefield into a sea of red mud. The sound of rockets had fallen silent, only the sound of the wind whistling, and the sound of water rushing through the new bomb craters remained. The Thai forces temporarily halted their advance, lying prone in the trenches, waiting for the storm to pass. Blood and rainwater mixed into streams, flowing towards the pitch-black Mekong River. The sky had just dawned, but was already fiercely red. 8 Thai fighter jets, divided into 2 flights, plunged into Cambodian airspace like knives cutting through clouds at a speed of over 1,000 kilometers per hour. They had just crossed the border when 6 Cambodian armed helicopters unexpectedly appeared, flying low right above the rubber treetops to evade radar. The air combat erupted immediately, at altitudes ranging from 200 to 3,000 meters. Air-to-air missiles left the launchers, drawing long, snaking white smoke streaks through the drizzling sky. 2 Cambodian helicopters were hit instantly in the first shot, spinning, then plunging nose first into the rice field, exploding into 2 massive fireballs. Debris scattered everywhere. Severed rotor blades flew like scythes in midair. The remaining helicopters desperately accelerated, firing rockets back wildly, but the Thai fighter jets circled high up, then dove down like hawks. On the ground, the Thai commanding officers, in the mobile observation post 10 kilometers from Phra Phet, monitored via the data link screen. The calm voice of the aircrew rang out in the headset. Fox 3, target 270, locked. Only 1 second later, another helicopter was ripped in half by a missile in midair, falling like a red-hot stone. The remaining Cambodian pilot attempted to parachute out, but the parachute had just opened when it was swept away by the jet wash. From the Thai jet, vanishing into the black cloud. Simultaneously, the last compound in the center of Phra Phet began to collapse completely. 3 fortified 5-story buildings, once used for detaining and torturing victims, were collapsed from top to bottom by basement-penetrating bombs. Each 500-kilogram bomb plunged down at supersonic speed, penetrating the concrete roof, then exploding inside, turning the entire steel structure into a pile of red-hot scrap metal. The sound of shattering concrete rang out like thunder. Cement dust rose hundreds of meters high, mixing with black smoke to form a colossal mushroom cloud. From the command helicopter, infrared images showed hundreds of tiny human figures running in panic. From the rubble, some were remnants of mercenaries, most were victims who had just been unlocked from their chains. The Thai Special Forces teams on the ground immediately rushed in, both sniping and pulling people out of the still hot rubble. Crying and calls for each other in various languages rang out, amidst the sound of helicopter engines and the contraction noise of cooling metal. High above, the last Cambodian helicopter attempted to fly zigzag, fleeing southward, but a Thai jet circled behind, shooting it down with the 30mm autocannon. The helicopter wreck plunged straight into the Stung Sanker River, water splashing more than 30 meters high. The sky fell silent for a few seconds. Only the sound of rain pattering on the jet wings remained, and the sound of jet engines fading away towards the west. The compound now only had upright columns of black smoke remaining and piles of crushed concrete. The air battle was over, leaving 8 columns of smoke from 8 helicopter wrecks, scattered from Phra Phet to Battambang. The sky belonged completely to Thailand again. Dawn had just broken when it was fiercely red. Hundreds of Thai Marines landed from over 40 helicopters onto the central compound area. Fast ropes descended like rain. Black figures crowded amidst the still thick smoke and dust. They hit the ground in a kneeling position, weapons loaded, immediately fanning out into small spearheads, piercing through the narrow streets full of rubble and corpses. There was no longer the sound of loudspeakers calling for surrender, only the sound of brief verbal commands, and the sound of boots crushing broken concrete. Street fighting erupted immediately. Mercenary remnants entrenched themselves in the remaining basements, using heavy machine guns and grenades to halt the advance. Every street corner was a pocket of resistance. A group of 10 men entrenched themselves on the third floor of an old hotel, firing intensely down onto the street, causing 3 Thai soldiers to fall immediately. The assault team responded with an anti-tank rocket, firing straight through the window. The entire third floor exploded into a fireball, concrete, and bodies falling down together like hail. The rescue teams moved parallel, breaching the doors of each underground container. The sound of sledgehammers hitting chains, the clanging of iron locks falling, the sudden burst of crying from over 400 victims who had been detained for months to years. They were pulled out into the blood-soaked streets, tightly hugging the soldiers dressed in black, mumbling in various languages: Thai, Vietnamese, Lao, Myanmar, Chinese. Some had no strength left to stand, needing to be carried on shoulders, running through the hail of bullets. In the eastern area of the compound, the last group of about 50 hired gunmen attempted to break the siege, fleeing towards Cambodia. They used a machine gun-mounted truck, charging straight into the Thai formation. The first 2 vehicles were detonated by anti-tank mines right at the gate, flipping over and burning fiercely. The survivors jumped out of the truck beds, running and firing wildly, but were immediately hit by bursts of fire from dozens of guns from 3 directions. In just 40 seconds, all 50 men lay prone in the middle of the road, blood spreading into large pools on the hot concrete surface. A report from the field was sent to the command at 6:30 a.m. Over 300 armed subjects were dead or seriously injured beyond rescue. The number of victims rescued exceeded 650 people, most in a state of dehydration and exhaustion. Evacuation helicopters continuously took off and landed amidst the smoke and fire, carrying victims to the field hospital in Aranyaprathet. The sound of the rotor blades drowned out the crying. Poipet now only had smoldering rubble remaining, and lines of people slowly walking under the drizzle. The most notorious human-trafficking fortress in Southeast Asia had been completely leveled in less than 8 hours. The moment the sun rose over the Gulf of Thailand, the Thai naval artillery ships were in position. 6 destroyers and frigates anchored exactly 30 nautical miles from the Cambodian shore, their 5-inch, 127 millimeters. Main guns simultaneously rotated their barrels northward. At 6:45 a.m., the fire order was transmitted. Over 40 shells, each weighing nearly 50 kilograms, left the barrels in the same second, tearing through the wind and rushing across the horizon with a terrifying screech. 20 seconds later, National Highway 4, leading from Sihanoukville to Poipet, shook violently, as if struck by a lightning god. Each volley created a line of bomb craters 500 meters long, tearing up the asphalt road surface, flinging Cambodian trucks and armored vehicles rushing to retreat into the air. A column of red dust rose over 100 meters high, obscuring the newly risen sun, turning the dawn into a bloody red sunset. The explosions echoed all the way to Phnom Penh, shattering the windows of ministers holding an emergency meeting. At the same time, Thai Special Forces patrol teams on the ground had crossed the rubble of Poipet, ambushing the last remaining mercenary remnants, attempting to flee towards Sisophon. Every intersection, every bridge had an ambush position. A convoy of 5 vehicles carrying over 100 hired gunmen had just rushed out of the town when it was struck crosswise by anti-tank rockets from both sides of the road. The first vehicle exploded, blocking the road. The 4 following vehicles crashed into each other, forming a pile of burning metal. The survivors jumped out of the vehicles, running wildly into the rice fields, when they were strafed by heavy machine guns from circling helicopters above. In just 3 minutes, the entire convoy was turned into a metal graveyard in the middle of the green field. At sea, the naval artillery ships continued with the second round, this time targeting the bridges over the Stung Sanker River and the logistics depots near the border. Each bridge was hit by 3 shells, breaking in half, then collapsing into the river like felled steel monsters. Water splashed everywhere, over 50 meters high, sweeping away vehicles and people trying to cross. Black smoke from the burning bridges spread into a long strip tens of kilometers long, completely obscuring the last retreat route of the Cambodian forces. The sea wind blew strongly, pushing the smoke and fire eastward, turning the entire border area into a pitch-black curtain. The sound of the naval artillery was still steady, one volley every minute, like the heartbeat of a colossal beast, crushing everything in its path. There was no longer a way to run, no more bridges, no more vehicles. Only fire and smoke remained. The rain stopped completely, leaving a gray sky heavy as lead. The Thai Special Forces teams finally entered the deepest basements of the main compound area, which once served as the data center and treasury of the human-trafficking network. Flashlight beams cut across the damp, moldy darkness, illuminating hundreds of iron crates containing weapons, millions of tightly bundled US dollars, and thousands of hard drives and ledgers recording victims from 2018 until now. Everything was quickly packed, thrown onto the waiting helicopters on the ruined rooftop. In the south of Phoi Phet, the final remnant group of about 40 men entrenched themselves inside an old temple near the border. They rang the alarm bell, using Buddha statues as shields and firing wildly from the main entrance. The Thai assault teams did not immediately open fire. Instead, a loudspeaker rang out in Khmer. "Drop your weapons, your lives will be spared." Silence lasted for 10 seconds. Then a grenade flew out from inside, exploding in front of the barricade. The order was given: eliminate. 3 anti-tank rockets shot straight through the main entrance, turning the entire front hall into a sea of fire. The crackling sound of burning wood, the sound of Buddhist chanting was drowned out by the noise of explosions and screaming. When the smoke cleared, only collapsed walls remained, and charred corpses lying amidst the ashes. Not a single one survived. At the same time, from Phnom Penh, the Cambodian Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued an urgent message via the United Nations channel requesting an immediate ceasefire. But on the battlefield, the order from the Thai command remained clear: sweep until the last man. The Special Forces teams continued to search house by house, every container, every bunker. Every time an armed figure was spotted, it was followed by a short burst of fire. No more prisoners were taken alive. In the peripheral residential area, hundreds of civilians trapped between the 2 lines of fire began to be evacuated. Children sobbed incessantly in their mothers' arms. The elderly slowly walked through the rubble. Thai ambulances drove through the smoke and dust, sirens blaring loudly. Dried blood on the road had turned black-brown. The stench of death mixed with the smell of gunpowder and burning wood. An elderly Cambodian woman knelt in the middle of the road, clutching the corpse of her son, whose chest was riddled with shrapnel, mumbling a prayer, while a Thai soldier silently placed a hand on her shoulder and continued on. Benign almost, the entire compound area, spanning over 10 hectares, had been completely leveled. Not a single wall remained higher than a person's head. Only piles of crushed concrete remained, burnt vehicles, and countless corpses lying strewn under the intense, newly risen Sunday. The Thai flag was planted on the highest point amidst the ashes. The sweep was over. 10:30 a.m., the ceasefire order suddenly rang out through all communication channels. The voice of the commanding colonel from the operations center in Bangkok was cold as steel. All units, cease fire immediately. Hold position. Do not fire first. The last gunshot still echoed among the rubble, then fell completely silent. Only the sound of the wind whistling through the red-hot scrap metal remained, and the distant crying of those who had just lost everything. Thai helicopters still circled overhead, but did not drop any more rockets. The naval artillery ships offshore also rotated their barrels towards the sea, silent like sleeping monsters. From the Cambodian side, a convoy of armored vehicles carrying white flags began to move slowly across the ruined National Highway 5, carrying United Nations observers and the International Red Cross. They stopped exactly 500 meters from the border, not daring to advance further. The final statistics were sent to the command at 11 o'clock. 321 armed subjects deceased on site, 43 severely injured not surviving, 689 victims from 17 nations rescued, over 100 of whom required urgent resuscitation. Thai forces sustained 41 casualties, 17 killed in action. The entire 14 main and auxiliary compounds in Phoi Phet had been completely leveled. Not a single wall remained standing. At noon, the Thai truck convoys began to withdraw. They rolled slowly over the crater-filled roads, carrying victims wrapped in rescue blankets, and black sacks containing the bodies of their comrades. Civilians on both sides of the border stood silently along the road, not applauding, not shouting, only bowing their heads. A Cambodian mother hugged her child and ran after a truck, mumbling someone's name faintly in Khmer, then collapsed to her knees amidst the red dust. By evening, the border returned to complete silence. Only faint white columns of smoke rose from the smoldering fires. Thai drones still circled on patrol, but there was no more sound of explosions. Phoi Phet was now just a vast dead land, broken concrete, twisted iron, and bomb craters filled with murky rainwater. 2 days later, the emergency ASEAN summit in Jakarta concluded with a joint declaration, the establishment of a regional alliance force against human trafficking, led by Thailand. The compound areas that were once hell are now vacant land. On that foundation of ashes, for the first time in many years, there was no more sound of iron chains, no more sound of whips, only the sound of the wind blowing through the warped corrugated iron sheets and the sound of birds starting to return. The war had ended. The human trafficking fortress no longer existed.